Today we're going to be talking about the 5 or maybe more mistakes that you make when polishing paint. I brought Jim back in and realized as we were working and doing things together, I realized how bad I am at machine polishing, which is amazing that I developed the world's best polish. But anyway, you have really talked about some key nuggets when it comes to paint polishing. So let's walk through the list, but let's start with number 1. What's the most common mistake people make, or one of the most common, I guess?
Well, the first thing you got to really focus on, Jimbo, is the lighting. You got to be able to see what you're doing. And so a lot of people do is they look at cars outside and they go, look at how perfect my car looks. It's beautiful. There's nothing wrong with it. And you look at it open daylight and you're looking at the surface of the car. But the problem is on the car surface, you're looking at, I'm looking at red paint, but I see nothing on the surface that's showing me any imperfections, because what do I see? I see everything that's reflecting in the background, which is the clouds and the skies above us, which nothing is an open pattern other than your reflection right there. And now your reflection, I can see, it's not as bright and crisp. So I can tell that the car, it could certainly use a little bit of polishing, could probably use a layer of something on it that would maybe brighten or crispen up your reflection. And that's what the polishing helps to, and that's what the coatings are, protective surface coatings, waxes, sealants, ceramics, whatever, they help to improve as well as far as the protective surface. So what I want to do is look at it in the lighting. I would never be able to polish a car out here to any effective measures. There's too many things that could go wrong because I wouldn't be able to see and understand if I'm doing something too much. I would not know if I'm getting too thin on the paint just to keep on going. So I would want to get it into an enclosed environment where I'd have a better look at it. And I'm not looking at all this confusion in the background that are showing me what the reflective surfaces is behind us. So we get it into a more uniform structure inside. You've got barred lighting across your ceiling. So I have something I can look at. I can actually see the orange peel texture of the paint in comparison with like flat surfaces like the windshield. I can see different things like that. So let's pull it inside and see how we can look at it in the lighting there, and if it could actually use improvements in that regard to polish the car more effectively.
So just to recap on that one, because a lot of people would, and then today it's overcast, so you have shadows from the sky, right? You know how a direct pin of the sun, right? But then that's a great tip too, of you got all these other shadows, S3 standing around it, cars around the parking lot. It's too busy. Is that the gist of it? It's too busy to see what's actually going on.
But for an ideal situation in the sky that we're seeing right now, to see high spots from ceramic coatings, this is like one of the most ideal, because it's diffused lighting. Most people won't understand this, but in crisp, clear sunlight, you'll rarely ever see a high spot. People notice them under overcast skies because the light is diffused and you see that frosted surface across that gloss because the light's not penetrating through in the same way that it would. And they'll also notice it late at night in a gas station canopy with the fluorescence overhead and the black light around them. It's the same type of thing. They'll go, oh wow, what is this? And then they'll start trying to wipe a piece of wax or a little, and it'll never come off. Got it. This is perfect environment to try to identify that. Got it. To try to fix what needs to happen before you put a coating on is not the scenario.
All right, let's pull it on and we'll get to number 2. Okay, so inside, we really see the difference in the lighting that you were talking about, right? So tell us about the dedicated light or what you were just saying.
Well, with the outside light, you really couldn't see the imperfections in the paint like you can in here. Ideally, in a controlled environment like this, 5,000 Kelvin color temperature lighting is ideal. It's the best suited. Sometimes with the backdrop area dark, so that it's like a light box or a photo box. It just diffuses imperfections. You see the paint clear, and you can really dial it in. You can see in like these areas over here, there's a lot of swirls. You'd never visibly see that outside in the sunlight like that. Whether it's, you might see certain swirls outside, but then if the sun's out bright enough, it's going to heat up the surface of the car. The only thing you really want creating heat on the surface of the paint is your polisher, the pad, and the compound or polish that you're using, which brings us to the second point.
Yeah, number 2.
Number 2 would be the combination of what kind of tool you're going to use, the products you're going to use in order to correct the paint. We've talked about in the past, there's different levels of how much you want to maybe shave into the clear coat or topmost surface of the paint in order to adjust the scratches on the surface. Your polish offers a pretty interesting limited combination, as you don't need to combine the polishes so much as the pads. So what we want to do is really look into what's the best combination of pad and polish to use for the paint. Something like this, I wouldn't really get too aggressive. A lot of these paint, this is going to be a single stage if it's all original. anything repainted in the past several years is going to have a clear coat underneath the red paint.
Which I believe the front half of this, based on my polishing testing, I think the front half of this was repainted because it's clear coat, and the back half is single stage. I believe that's what's going on. I also saw some like sanding marks in the hood. I never asked the owner, but it does seem, I don't know if they ever did that from factory.
Yes.
Like clear coat on the front, single stage on the back. I don't know, but I think that's what this car is. But yeah.
Okay.
And I am, to your point, like detailing has gotten so overcomplicated that I'm excited with the picture perfect polish that it's like one less variable for people to have to worry about, right? So
yes.
when you talk about, you know, soft paints, hard paints, vintage cars, single stage, you know, base coat, clear coat, like all these other variables, one thing I was really trying to narrow down with the liquid is like, that would be one less variable that you had to worry about. So that, but it's confusing because it's different than what else is on the market, right?
Right. So
yeah, but one less variable with the picture perfect polish.
Yes. It's like the Thousand Island dressing, man. I mean, it's just got all of it in there that makes the burger so much better. But the combination of paints on this car puts an interesting perspective, especially in the DIY hand, because anybody that's not familiar with the polishing techniques is going to be in for a big ride, not understanding the difference between a panel that has been repainted differently from the factory.
Right.
Because the combination of products you're going to use or pads are going to be completely different.
Okay. So how do you pick what pad or what combo you should do? If the biggest mistake is people are picking the wrong combo, how do they know what the right combo is?
Okay, most people today are going to be working on a single stage, or excuse me, on a base coat clear coat. They're going to be polishing clear coat.
Right.
They're not polishing a brand new black Chevy. They're polishing the clear coat on a brand new black Chevy.
Right.
On a car like this, an 80s model, 87.8, somewhere 88.9 Porsche, it's going to be a single stage paint under most scenarios prior to that until maybe in the early 90s. And on that kind of combination, it's a totally different scenario. Okay. That's another video, and you can go to do a whole another series.
So we'll talk about this because the front half of this is base coat, clear coat, polishing clear coat. It's what the vast majority of people are going to be doing. Okay.
Correct.
Got it.
So we want to work through the right pad structure. On something like this, I like to use a finishing pad to start with a lot of times, and that narrows down and isolates a lot of the scratches that I can kind of go in and do my needlework later like a surgeon.
There's the nugget. So just like anything else in detailing, starting least aggressive and working your way up in aggression is where you want to start.
On a car like this.
Okay.
So you got a collectible car that's got a very minimal amount of paint. You want to take the least amount of surface area off of it.
Okay.
If it was a brand new 911 that had some scuffs in it, I'm going to go right on in and I'm going to tear right through them and I'm going to take all of it out and then just do my thing.
Okay.
Something like this, you really want to protect the paint and keep it to its most authenticity.
But that's a good tip though for like a DIYer too. Like if you're unsure of where to go, just start least aggressive.
Yes.
Right?
Because it's going to get the gloss you really want to achieve. If you get the gloss and then you're really concerned about some of those scratches later, talk to a pro.
Got it.
Or work on them one at a time, a little by little, until you kind of perfect the craft. And it doesn't take years and years. I mean, you can do something in your own time.
Okay.
But that's something that you might want to do in a lot of cases, and it's a lot more fun to make it something like that.
Perfect. What's tip number 3 or mistake number 3?
Mistake number 3 is really, you can, the polishing technique itself. So you've gotten the right pad, you've gotten the right polish, you've gotten the light, the right lighting conditions. Now it's the technique. I see most people doing a couple of things that I'm looking at, I'm going, well, you spread the product out. Well, and we talked about this in one of the other earlier videos. When you're using a foam pad, it's not so much, dabbing the paint in 30 different places, but when you're using a microfiber pad, those fibers need to stand up in order to be the most effective with the job that they're doing. So if you're using a microfiber pad and you put 4 dots on it and you go 1, 2, 3, 4, well, that thing is spun and you've got matted down cluster mess of these fibers all tangled. It looks like you've got a daughter. You ever see her wake up in the middle of the night with her hair all crazy? Totally. I mean, like, come on, brush your hair.
Right.
So you want to keep it right. So when you put the pad down, you want to smooth into spreading it out so that you're really working it. And cross hatching isn't really necessary. I like to go with the body lines of the paint.
Okay.
So, and keeping it very uniform, and it also keeps your time efficiency much, much better because you're sloping those lines gradually to where
Okay.
it's not just a checkered box.
Where did cross-hatching come from? Like, why did that, it kind of reminds me of the like, don't wax your car in circular motions because you're going to create swirl marks. It almost seems like in that same thought pattern.
Well, it's like you want to get someone to do a thorough job. And in ceramic coating cars, when we first started ceramic coating cars, I'm talking to people all over the country in different areas. I don't know how they're really doing it. And they're like wiping it on like this, or they're wiping, who knows? And I'd say, look, wipe it on in even lines. They do that, but it's like they're mowing the lawn, but you don't see that you missed a stripe of grass till later. You got this mohawk in there.
Right.
And so cross-hatch when you're spreading the product.
I see.
When you're polishing a car, the only time I'll really cross-hatch is if I'm redistributing some of the product that might be heavier in another area, but I really want to just keep the angles on the same lines.
Okay.
It keeps my efficiency up, it lets me know where I'm at, it doesn't confuse the pattern. And when you're cross-hatching over like these different angle areas, it just doesn't make sense because you got your polisher beaten edges that don't need to be hit in certain ways. It's not the end all that's going to save your life by not doing
but
it.
It's just not necessary.
It's not necessary.
Okay.
All right.
Number 4, knocking edges, right? And especially with a car like this, and that's what I think whenever, like, we were going to shoot this video on like on a panel, and you're like, I don't really want to shoot it on a panel. And the more I thought about it, the more I'm like, yeah, because that's just one big flat surface, which is great for torture testing or doing something. But the reality of polishing a car is there's lots of obstacles.
Right. And then this one is a perfect scenario. For example, you want to be really cautious about like where your pad is going to sling if it starts to sling products, because it's going to sling.
Right.
You've got a convertible top car. Most convertible tops.
Picture perfect polish doesn't sling, by the way.
Okay.
Just saying.
Well,
Just saying.
okay. Say for example, you have your convertible top up,
Right.
and you're polishing the edge. How many times have you seen polish on a convertible top edge?
Right.
Where
Every
somebody
time.
just rubs it, and then how are you going to get that off?
Even this black molding right here.
This black molding,
the handle,
you got
right?
the rubber moldings
Yeah.
around here. You got all these little areas. So there's a lot of areas that are best in most cases to tape off, just so that even if the polish doesn't hurt it, if you could, the heat and the friction can burn those edges.
This is a little rabbit trail squirrel moment, but like there's actually been some talk about polishing black trim lately, but there's like 2 camps. There's one camp that like, and there's one camp that says like it's totally safe. There's another camp that's like, that's the craziest stuff I've ever heard. Like, it's one thing to be able to go over the trim with your polish. That's what the guy reached out to me. He's like, hey, his opinion was, you could say that your polish is trim safe, but never mention like specifically polishing trim. And I'd really never even heard like, wait, people are polishing trim? This is crazy to me. I always tried to avoid the trim, but always loved to polish that. It was okay if you knocked it on accident, but like purposely polishing trim? You heard this?
I haven't heard it in the open, but I've heard it from my team. We've tried a couple of different products to be able to do certain things like that. Most of the products that we're using are really kind of a one-step product that you can polish over some of these moldings, and they'll leave a nice sheen to it that gives it a nice crisp, clean look, and it doesn't white or haze later. So my team, knowing that it works on doing something like that, they'll sometimes do it with this one product, but when it comes to compounding paint, I've never used a polish and polished like plastic panels.
Seems weird to me. I don't know. My initial thought is that they're maybe it's a one step that is just, which would bring true to what I think is just heavy in oil.
Yes.
Right? So that's what I think when I hear this, like they're intentionally polishing trim. I'm like, that is just telling me that their polish is heavy in oil, which you're kind of,
and that's where 15 years ago, oil-based polishes haunted guys like me, because we'd polish a car and then, oh wow, it slipped a little bit over some of that little edge of that rubber molding. It looks actually a little better.
Right.
Until you come back hours later and it's chalked out gray and it's a chemical burn. It's not just.
And that's exactly what's happening. I'm loosely following it, but that's kind of what's happening, is that the people that are running over their trim, they're having issues down the line, which is totally in line with this like too much oil in the polish, which the picture perfect polish isn't oversaturated in oil, but that's again another video for another day.
It's saturated just enough.
Just enough, the right combo. But anyway, back to mistake number 4 we were on.
So we want to really be in good mind about what our machine is doing. So you've got, this thing is spinning a wheel and it's knocking, several millimeters. You got 15 millimeters on this, 21 on another, and so many on another. So when you're coming over on areas around like a door handle, you can see where if you want to polish the edge just to the edge of that, you've got to do it from the outermost point of the tool. If you come in any closer, you're going to knock that handle. And on this buffing wheel right here, you've basically got a rubber shroud and then a hard lip Velcro strip and then a cushion with some fibers. There's no polish on this, so bear in mind that anything that this hits, like the under edge of a mirror or a door handle or something like that, it can burn it really easily. So you want to be very conscientious about what your tool is actually hitting and touching on all angles.
Number 5. What do you got for number 5, Jim?
Okay.
We just talked about it.
Yeah,
Did
I know.
you already forget?
Dude, all I could think about was that joint I smoked an hour ago, and those mushrooms were kicking in.
Hey, this is on YouTube, so whatever you want to talk about.
Right. All right, so too fast, too slow, too little, too much. So you can use too much product, you can use too little product. You can certainly pass too fast, you can certainly polish too fast, you can certainly polish too slow. The one thing I learned that was really early on when I was like learning how to really polish cars for the first, I really started learning, I was like, it's like 2 years ago. And, but
200 years ago or 2 years ago?
Yeah, when the earth was still cooling. The finishing polish, I was told you can never really over polish a car. Now, there is that. Like if this is a single stage paint, you could use a finishing polish and every time you run that polisher over it, it's gonna pull red paint off of it, okay? So you can over polish a car, but when you're jeweling a car, you really can't overdo it unless you're operating the machine with too much heat. So you can run it at a very moderate speed as long as you're not running it just burning on edges.
Okay.
You can really give it a lot more time for the finishing stage, and you really do want to give it more time. The cutting stage should take the longest. By the time you get to the finishing stage, a lot of people don't spend as much time because they're just kind of done with it.
Totally.
You really want to like spend almost twice as much time as you think you need finishing the paint. That doesn't mean if it takes you 5 hours to compound the car, it should take you about 45 minutes to an hour and a half to like finish, do a finishing polish stage. Don't spend 3 hours. But like really just spend the extra effort. If you're going 2 full passes, do a 3rd full pass.
Okay.
Because the worst thing to do is look at it and then know you got to still go back and do that to fix any kind of hazing.
Okay.
So just overdo that stage a little bit more. On the compounding stage, you don't want to overdo that anymore.
Okay.
You want to be as cautious and careful as you can be and say, I think that scratch is just about where it needs to be. I can see it under this perfect level lighting because I'm really tuned in on it.
But when we take it outside.
But if I take it outside, I look at it, am I really going to see that there?
Okay.
It's a step away.
Yeah. Okay.
And you're not going to fix it in the finishing stage by over polishing it then either.
Right.
But it'll jewel it more.
Okay.
So
we've seen what too fast looks like.
Yeah.
You can imagine what too slow looks like.
Yes.
Can you show us like what a good and in previous videos you've talked about pressure too. So can you show us both for can you show us like what a good arm speed looks like? Tom had talked about like, I asked him like how big of a square should we work, and he talked about basically between your shoulder blades, right? You've added in that like pulling polish or pulling product from a distance and kind of working it in, which I think is another great tip. So we're kind of culminating all these great tips, but show us what like your arm speed should look like. Like what is a good, I don't know how to quite phrase it, but.
Have you ever had just like the best back massage ever?
Oh yeah.
I mean, was it like?
No.
No.
Right.
It was just, you soothe it. Just enough.
Okay.
You want to massage the paint to where it's just comfortable enough that, like, you want the rotation. So, like,
that's a good parallel though. Like, imagine yourself on a massage table. There's the deep tissue stuff that like hammering, right? That would be like the compounding, right? But you can't do that forever.
Right. And you can do full throttle at that.
Right.
And then just go all in, but you still have to be slow to work that muscle out all the way from the base to the top.
Got it.
The paint, you really want to do that. So when you see like these oscillating divots right there, you want to narrow those down to where you almost don't see them.
Ah.
You know, when you see that, dun, 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 it looks like, you know, it's like you're on a pogo stick, you know,
Right.
bouncing from one section to the next. You want it just to be a constant little chatter. So I'll do what I feel like is a comfortable phase for me.
Okay.
This is the one element that is the most challenging for me to teach someone that's been polishing paint for any more than a couple of years or more, because they fight it to not want to go slower because they feel like they're getting it done faster when they're moving faster.
And I think it's you that said move slower to go further or go faster. Or something like that? Okay.
By moving slower, you're actually getting the job done so much faster. And you don't recognize that until probably the 5th or 6th car. And you're going, wait a second. I would still be working on this one through the end of the day and tomorrow, and it's already like 3 o'clock and I still got time.
Got it.
Like, I promise you, that's what's going to happen for someone on a pro level that's doing cars all the time. The novice at home's not going to really understand or see it, but they're going to have a much more efficient and effective job done.
Got it.
So here's like just a temperament of like 4 beads on a finishing pad. It's not going to hurt the paint. I'm going to joggle it over what you see here. You can see how many little ripples and waves are from the pattern. That was pretty fast.
Yeah, that was
That
real
wasn't
fast.
really fast. I've seen really fast.
That wasn't really fast?
I've seen guys, it's like they're driving an Altima that they stole in this inner city, man. I mean, they're like in and out of traffic, braking hard, and you're like, oh my gosh, this guy's going to kill me. So I'm going to drive it like a chauffeur would drive. Like, you know,
you're getting picked up
the
in a black
president
car.
around, you know, like, come on, that's how you want to be driven. Like, pick me up, ease me in, just guide me in a little bit.
And pressure-wise, about how many pounds of pressure?
I got about 5.5, somewhere
so
around
basically
there.
letting the machine do most of the work.
You see how that wheel is spinning? It's doing the job it needs to do within a square inch of its capacity at the measure of speed it needs to be going.
Got it.
If I go this fast,
got it.
how much polishing is really being heated up to work that polish into the surface of the paint as opposed to right here?
Because you're working as a team. You got the liquid, the pad, and you all working in unison. So you want to give each variable a moment to actually work, right?
You just described the perfect trifecta of polishing.
Woo! The PPP. Picture perfect polish and the trifecta.
And it took 2 gyms to do that.
Not surprised.
So that's just a quick glimpse of like what I think, you know, as far as the polishing technique. You want the lighting to be ideal. You want to be able to see the paint. You want to have your polishing pad, the combination appropriate. You want to have your technique down so that you're efficiently working over the surface of the paint, doing its job, while not negatively impacting other surfaces of the paint, like knocking this handle, knocking this arm, knocking this side view mirror. And you want to be really cautious about edges where the paint is super thin. You don't want too much heat to develop on this very sharp and narrow edge right here where the paint would burn quicker. And then you want to work at a moderate pace of speed that they're all 3 going to work together appropriately to get the job done in the most efficient time.
There you go. Perfect. Well, I think he summarized it perfectly. Those are the 5 mistakes that I've personally made. I wanted to say you probably make polishing, but honestly, they're 5 mistakes that I usually commonly make. So, but I thought this would make for a perfect video. Obviously, I'll have the picture perfect polish link below. I'll have Jim's socials linked below if you want to follow him as well. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you make these mistakes? Are there more mistakes that we haven't mentioned in this video? Love to hear your thoughts, feelings, and emotions in the comments below. Jim, thanks again for being a guest on the channel. And I'll catch you guys on the next one.
Good to see you again. Thank you, Jimbo.
See ya.